Thank you for the music. Trigger warning, sexual assault. It took me 10 years. In 2020, a UIC professor invited me to do presentations for his Asian American courses on the topic of sexual assault on college campus and Asian American experiences. I started my talk with the following topics: the American colonization in Asia, her military and political interventions in the Asian region, the constructed images of Asian women as docile, submissive, exotic, sensual, and sexually willing, and the sexual fetishization of Asian American women. The cultural and symbolic emasculation and desexualization of Asian American men. Why are sexualized images important to our understanding of sexual assault? Is it possible that if you're perceived to be docile, submissive, exotic, and sexually willing, your rejections, even if they're firm, can be disregarded over and over? It's possible that your rejections can be fantasized in such a twisted way to mean affirmations. Immediately after my talk, a student approached me and said, "Thank you so much for your conversation. You made this material relevant to my experiences." I immediately knew what she meant. She didn't mean that I made the material relevant to her as a woman. She meant I made it relevant to her as an Asian woman. Her remark shook me to my core, not only in terms of how I should do gender-based violence trainings in the future, but also how I should re-examine my own sexual assault. I had to ask myself, why was my identity as an Asian woman never given a proper place in the public account of the story? My sexual assault took place in 2010. He was a colleague of mine in the same department at the university where I was teaching full-time. He was a comrade who would march with women and speak up for us. Yet he sexually assaulted me despite my repeated rejections. I have told this story a few times since 2016. I left out something important. I decided not to discuss race and ethnicity to mitigate the stereotyping that might ensue. My colleague is an immigrant man of color, a member of a marginalized community. I left out that detail because of a larger political context of our time. In 2015, when Donald Trump came out running for presidency, he relied on demonizing immigrants of color. I didn't want this to become another statistic contributing to the portrayal of immigrant men of color as a villain in our larger political and cultural landscapes. Since I didn't discuss his race, ethnicity, I never explored how my own racial identity as an Asian woman might have played a role in my own victimization. I've been troubled by my own omission. Since my identity has been central to my existence in this country, how can race be so salient in all our experiences, yet so absent at this moment of intimate violation? Is it possible that because of the images constructed and developed out of American colonial and imperialist legacies that we or I have come to see ourselves as complicit in the violence against us? I did, questioning the legitimacy of the rape because there was no brute force, because it was not in the dark alley, because he was somebody I trusted, not a stranger, because I didn't scream or yell, because I didn't fight back, and because I stayed quiet afterwards, pretending nothing had happened. Exactly the same way I deal with anti-Asian racism early on in my life in this country. On March 16, a white man murdered 8 people in Atlanta, among them 6 Asian women. In the press conference, the sheriff minimized the violence against these women by labeling it as the shooter's trouble with sexual addictions. Within 1 month of my arrival in this country in 1991, 30 years ago, I learned a particular form of racial profiling unique to me as an Asian woman via this phrase: I like Asian women. I like Asian women. This phrase has been said to me throughout decades by men of all races, white men in particular. And the key word here is Asian, not woman. Men are looking for particular titillating images and stereotypes in me, a fantasy, so to speak. In an effort to protect my perpetrator, I never asked once how my own identity might have played a role in his refusals to accept my rejections. I also obscured the fact that I had consistently experienced racialized misogyny and sexism from men of color as well. And even until this day, I still have difficulty addressing harm done to one another within and between marginalized communities. I wrote myself out of my own narratives. When you write yourself out of your own story, there's no story to tell for you or about you. Remember, peace is not just the absence of war and violence. It is also the affirmation of well-being and respect from all, both within and between communities. It took me 10 years. Let them not be your 10. Thank you.
Yeah. Grandma, grandma, grandma. Grandma, grandma, grandma. Grab my hand, I'll put you on your throne. It's easy to fall, everything going on. Anxiety rising, I hear it in your tone. The pain melts away as you listen to the song. And we still pushing. 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 Help you see.